Hello everyone and welcome to Data Dialogues. My name is Richard Harris from Certus Insight. I'm the Commercial Director, and joining me today from Red Cross Lifeblood is Noel Hanssens. Hello Noel.
G'day Richard, good to see you again.
And you sir, and you. So look, first of all, thank you very much for making your time available today. We asked you for this session because you've just gone through a process of evaluating and then deciding on Data Vault 2.0 as your chosen methodology. And I think a lot of people out there facing this journey would find your experience of great value. So I might get you to start off today with maybe telling us a bit about yourself and the organization, and really what were you doing prior to this move to Data Vault and the kind of challenges that you were hoping to solve.
Thanks, Richard. So my name is Noel Hanssens. I'm the manager of data engineering at Red Cross Lifeblood. I'm also the responsible for data governance, data engineering, the DVA team, and our on-prem and cloud data warehouses. I'm lucky to work with a group of very talented and passionate and committed colleagues on our journey in the data space. I like to joke that I was into data before it was cool, and now data is definitely cool. So it's exciting. For my sins, I also run the Data Engineering Meetup and are involved in the National Data Eng Conf, Data Eng Bytes conference. So from Lifeblood, however, so Lifeblood is a branch of the Australian Red Cross, and it's responsible for the collection and distribution of blood and biological products in Australia. So we do a lot of work across scientific, clinical and support services. You'd most likely be aware of us, whether you've given blood donation yourself at any point, and please, if you haven't in a while, please come along and make a donation, or plasma or other products. But also you may yourself or have a family member who's engaged with our services yourself. And so I have a personal story, like many of the workers across Lifeblood, a personal story around prior to me working with Lifeblood, where my wife was giving birth to our first son, and she had complications, post-birth complications, and she required a blood transfusion. And of course, that blood product was originally came from a very generous donor through Lifeblood, eventually to reach her and to sort of, to make her better again after giving birth to Alexander. So so that meant when it came time for me to start with Lifeblood, I had this personal connection to the organisation, and it's quite amazing hearing so many of my colleagues' personal connections to Lifeblood as well. So it's a really motivating, powerful force for the work that we do. I'm not just a data engineering manager. I'm someone that can save lives if I do my job well, and that's really motivating. So how did we come to Data Vault 2, and what were we doing prior to that? So we have a much-loved 14-year-old data warehouse, legacy data warehouse, which was well-designed and has been an absolute workhorse for the organisation across the last 14 years. However, as with all things, over time, that data warehouse has sort of atrophied to a degree. And what that means is that you'd never design something on day one as you would after 14 years of use, because, of course, during that intervening period, the requirements have changed, the needs have changed, and so forth. It's also built on, over that 14 years, the things like design modelling methodologies have changed, some of the tooling has changed, some of the approaches have changed. Indeed, I don't recall whether Agile was particularly common 14 years ago, but something, a cultural and team formation shift such as Agile, we weren't considering 14 years ago as part of this change. So that's another good reason for us to do this. But ultimately, the motivating factor that we had was this request from our dashboard and reporting and data science teams that every time a schema change would come along or they requested more data, that our development cycles took quite a while. And while that was appropriate and sort of leading edge 14 years ago, as time changes, we needed to look at new approaches, and that's where Data Vault started to enter our thinking.
So what then drove that idea of that re-architecting? Were you facing a lot of new data sets? Or, as you say, was it more the nature of the data and the way that it's being used just presented an opportunity for a re-engineering?
I think that the baseline would have been that there always should be an opportunity with a move such as this to reassess where you're at. But fortunately, we were very aware of business needs, and particularly where there were time to value challenges with us serving out changes to the underlying source system schema, for instance, and then propagating them through the data warehouse, surfacing more data to the business when it needed, changes to the data warehouse, those kind of things. So we were very aware that just our development cycles were taking too long. Again, the data warehouse, the enterprise on-prem legacy one, has been a great servant for the organisation, but there's just newer and better ways to do things. So we had both the technology that we could use, but also the modelling architecture that we could use for that particular point. There was also, we work in a heavily regulated environment, so we've got this counterpoint of not just speed to development, and you can do things quick and dirty very quickly if you're comfortable with that. But we also need things like traceability and security of our data. So those were sort of front of mind when we were considering different options and different approaches to the challenges that we've got.
Yeah, we've seen quite recently some very high-profile examples where there is definitely more work to be done in how we secure, particularly the sensitive and private information that organizations can use. And it's very interesting to hear that, yeah, it sounds like a lot of the motivation here was we're seeing much more downstream use of data by line of business people who are much more data literate than they have been in the past. And those increase in demands for access to information, for self-service reporting or analytics is starting to drive similar needs, across the industry. So I'd be curious then to hear, how you landed on Data Vault. Like, what was the process of you going out to market and assessing and looking at whether Data Vault really was the right approach for you guys?
So, great question. The couple of things that came to mind, our enterprise data warehouse, our legacy data warehouse, uses a combination of sort of Kimball and Inmon and a bit of Data Vault too as well, or original Data Vault, I should say. So we had some familiarity with the strengths and weaknesses of each approach, but there's always that interesting point I find with where you're considering around what's you're about to make your investment decision, and do you have enough information to make that investment decision at the time? And so really that raises this question of if I'm analysing 3 data modelling approaches, let's just say sort of Kimball, Inmon and Data Vault 2, that I've not just done a tabletop exercise of assessing those against our needs, but I've also got a deep feel for each of those approaches within the team. And so within my team, we had we'd implemented Kimball, implemented Inmon, and to degrees we'd implemented Data Vault. So as part of the consideration for assessing Data Vault, what we did was we did both a requirements for quick responses to changes assessment, and then we utilised an existing data set to build out a Data Vault 2 proof of concept, which meant that we could then sort of measure both the development timeframes, but also the processing timeframes, which was equally important for us, against existing data sets as a baseline to compare what was more appropriate for us as an organisation versus the existing approach that we were using.
And so once you'd built the Data Vault proof of concept, where did you then see the differences, and how did that shape your business case inside the organisation?
Yeah, so when we built the Data Vault proof of concept, we actually took a multi-staged approach. So initially it was we did a hand-coded Data Vault 2 implementation, and then we used an automating data warehouse automation tool called Irwin Data Modeler. So those that allowed us to then step through the hand coding was useful because it gave us a very intimate understanding of the transformations that would take place, and the potential problems was quite useful in that respect. Also, backtracking before the POC, we actually undertook a maturity assessment of our Data Vault capability within the organisation. And so that allowed us to identify really where our strengths lay. We had a very mature Irwin data modelling capability within the organisation going back 10 years. So that was a real sort of, crown jewels has been described as for our organisation. that allowed us a good, strong base level of data modeling and utilizing this tool to then build Data Vault 2 on top of. And that tool actually has the data warehouse automation capability as well as integration capability into your orchestration tool, for instance. So those gave us that good baseline. And then when it came to actually implementing the proof of concept, we were then able to measure against both that as well as the ease of development for our data architects, for instance, and also the ease of report development on the output of that.
Fantastic. And so how did the business then, you've made the decision to go with Data Vault, obviously the business case has stood up. How has the decision been received by the business so far? Have you been able to show some good advantages? What's next for you guys is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, great question. So there's two parts to that. And one is that because we're building and migrating existing data sets, what that means is that we're building to a fixed state. So that fixed state is known reports that we have and that we're generating at the moment. So from our purely from that perspective, our business is pretty sort of agnostic to the changes that we're making under the hood. So long as they get their similar data out, then they're quite happy. The difference, however, is in this time to value piece. So when they make requests, are we delivering those requests in a quicker way? Can we, again, underlying schema changes of our source system, can we push through those changes quicker? Can we get new data sets in quicker? Can we surface additional data to the reports in a quicker fashion? And so that's been quite positive. The speed and the time to value that we've been able to generate, and not just through Data Vault 2, but of course it's that the other underlying technology using the Irwin data modeling toolset has been useful from that perspective. Of course, all throughout this journey, we've engaged with the business to ensure that they're aware of our plans and the reasons for their plans. We've got a really strong relationship with our specialist dashboard and reporting and data science area. And so they've been very candid with us about the challenges that they have from my team. Again, sort of the length of time for changes to flow through. And so that's been allowed us to then consider these options and then deliver a potential solution, which is looking pretty strong at the moment for this piece of work. The next step, however, is the initiation of a fully blown pilot using a number of data sets, which will then migrate across. So 3 data sources we'll be using, and we'll be then redeveloping those data sets using Data Vault 2, using the automation tooling, doing that from end to end. And delivering that capability to the report development and dashboard team.
It sounds like, and having been involved in the ongoing, conversations and the process that you've gone through, you've kind of ticked on all of those key points that are so important to, making an informed decision. I like the fact that you put it in those terms, that the decisions that needed to be made need to be supported with the right information for the right people. But equally, the environment with which you were operating, the things that you were looking for naturally lent themselves to an agile process, like Data Vault, and including a very strong relationship with the business side, those people who are responsible for really deciding on what business rules you will apply to the data, create your business vault, etc. So it seems to me that you went along a very logical path, and all of those things that you would want to be in place for a successful Data Vault implementation to begin with, you already had in place. So it was very useful. So in terms of your Data Vault capability, did you find that your team were quick to understand and be able to start to apply some of those Data Vault concepts, particularly Data Vault 2.0, obviously because it's from the original?
Yeah, we started from a reasonably strong position with our data modeling experience and our Data Vault exposure. But that being said, there's always that risk that, the tricks for young players was always something in the back of my mind. And I'm very aware of failed Data Vault 2 implementations and why that might cause us problems. And so as I was considering how do we mitigate for those problems and really de-risk ourselves is what the aim of the game is. The two main approaches that we took there were around engaging with a specialist consultancy to provide us both with that maturity review, the maturity assessment, but also to essentially be that set of eyes that could review pieces of work, the modelling that we did, the approaches that we're taking, where and that way that would sort of surface any potential problems, hopefully before they became too significant that they derailed the piece of work. But also we sent a number of our team members on Data Vault 2 training. That was absolutely necessary for them to go on that training, so they became more experienced with that piece of work. We've done many presentations back to the team of the proof of concept, both the hand coding and the automated proof of concept. So these concepts are socialized within the team. We can ask questions, we can assess things, and eventually come to a determination around a go or a no-go with Data Vault 2 as the preferred methodology. I'll also put my hand up and say that I went on the Data Vault 2, executive training course with another team lead of mine. So I had a deeper understanding of the methodology itself. So I just had a bit more visibility of the journey that we were going through, and particularly why it's and how it's different from a Kimball or Inmon approach. And so that allowed me to sort of understand why that would be different, from the 20 years of experience that I've got with those modelling methodologies. So overall, those three things gave us a good baseline to try to de-risk as much as possible the proof of concept piece of work and to maximise its chances of success, which is the point at which we are now, and then shift across into the pilot. I'd also make the point that the maturity evaluation was really key in just giving us visibility of the areas that we might be weak in. We knew that we were strong in a couple of areas, but there were certain aspects that we knew that we were weak in as well. But it's really around the sort of the known unknowns, and we had no way to identify those. It took this consultancy to come in and to tell us what we didn't know, and to show us what we needed to improve on as part of this process. So I'm pretty sort of happy with that approach that we've taken so far.
Great. Look, we're almost up on time. I will sort of say it was very useful from our side post conducting that review and then having you do the executive training. It made the interpretation of our findings, being able to explain it in ways that you'd already understood and been educated on, made the process very smooth. So certainly something we would recommend others do. To finish us off today, though, for those people who are embarking on looking at a Data Vault 2 journey, are there any other pieces of advice you might give?
Great question, Richard. The couple of pieces of advice I would give is certainly read up as much as you can on Data Vault 2, and particularly do an assessment against Kimball and Inmon. The answer always has to be the right tool for the job, and it depends whether the question is, is Data Vault 2 right for your organisation? And there are plenty of scenarios where it isn't. But being able to do sort of a wide-eyed assessment and comparison between those three pieces, and if you need to get in a consultancy such as Certus to give you those eyes on the pieces of information that you don't know, is something of reasonable value. The data modelling capability maturity piece was critical for us in the review, and also using an existing workload and probably like hand coding and then doing an automated proof of concept is really key. So you've got true baselines between the existing way of doing things and the new way of doing things. I think being able to clearly articulate the benefits, the reasons why you're undertaking this transformation is key, because inevitably you'll be asked, why are we making this investment on this approach? Why is it different? And you've got a good reason to justify those approaches that you've got.
Fantastic. Well, look, Noel, I really appreciate your time today. I hope our audience found this of interest. If you do have any questions about what we talked about today, please post them inside the DVIC forums, and we'll endeavour to respond and answer any questions that you may have. Again, Noel, thank you for your time today. Thank you all for watching, and look out for our next Data Dialogues series.
Thanks, Richard. See you all.